You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Shalom, this is Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and I want to welcome you to this episode of SLA Insight. I'm beginning a new series, as I discussed last episode, on reading and talking about reading and how we learn reading, how we do reading, how to teach reading. And so last week was just kind of an overview of the series, and this week I want to lay some foundations, talk about a few definitions, look at goals, and what it is we do when we read in another language or teach reading of another language. So I want to start by talking about why we're talking about reading. If we're looking at ancient languages in particular, we're looking at Hebrew, Greek, Latin, Aramaic. The primary language skill that is taught and should be taught is reading. Now, the four language skills are speaking, listening, reading, and writing. But we focus in the ancient language world primarily on reading because we want to access those ancient texts. But I also want to think for a minute with you about the goals we have when we teach our students how to read then. If this is primarily our focus, what are we getting at? What are we trying to do with teaching them how to read? We're not reading French novels for enjoyment. The purpose of reading in an ancient language is to access those ancient texts and not just to read them, perhaps for enjoyment, but primarily for the purpose of, in the biblical world, exegesis. And so just quickly, I did a quick dictionary lookup for exegesis to make sure that we're get all on the same page. And Oxford and dictionary.com both gave me a very similar definition, and that is exegesis is a critical explanation or interpretation of a text, primarily scripture or the Bible. And so we're looking at critical explanation or interpretation. And in the world of the wider world of reading in a first language, reading in a second language, when we talk about interpretation and even critical explanation for that matter, it requires comprehension. You have to be able to understand the text when you read it. And in the world of SLA, a lot of research has gone into understanding how people comprehend a text, how they read a text, and what that requires. And much of it boils down to reading fluency. Okay, and so I'm going to work through a couple definitions, again, just kind of laying some groundwork in terms of what we're teaching, why we're teaching it, and what direction we need to go from here. So the guru here for reading is William Grabe. He's written a couple things, a number of things actually, about reading. His monograph, Reading in a Second Language, published by Cambridge, is one of my go-to resources, which I put up a couple episodes ago. But he's also written a number of articles. And so a couple definitions that I've been able to draw from his work. The first, fluency, reading fluency, is the ability to read texts rapidly with ease and accuracy. And this is an important prerequisite for text comprehension. You need to be able to read rapidly and with ease and accuracy. And as we work through some of these details, I'll explain more why the rapidity is important. It's not just a matter of accuracy, which I think we tend to focus on more in our ancient language classrooms, the accuracy piece, but the speed is also an important part of promoting comprehension. And again, we'll get into that in future episodes, why that's the case. So putting it together, another quote is from Grabe, this time from his article, Fluency in Reading, 35 years later. He says, quote, effective L1 reading comprehension generally assumes reading fluency, a person reading at a reasonable reading rate between 250 and 300 words per minute, using very efficient and fast word recognition skills, and combining information from various sources while reading under fairly intense time constraints. This is a realistic explanation of what people do when they are skilled readers, whether in L1 or L2, in other words, in native language or second language. Moreover, reading fluency has been associated with reading comprehension in a wide range of research studies over the past 20 years. So this idea of reading fluency, that's the end of the quote, by the way, this idea of reading fluency is closely tied to comprehension, and our ability to comprehend texts is dependent on fluent reading. And so I want to highlight just a couple things from this fairly long quote that I just read. First is efficient and fast word recognition. In upcoming episodes, I'm going to talk in more detail about what is involved in reading, in recognizing a word, and being able to do it quickly. And then the second thing that I want to highlight from this quote is that there's a combining of information from various sources. And that is not just some random thing that he's thrown out there. When you read, you are combining your pre-existing knowledge of the topic, whatever it is, with the meaning you are drawing from the text. And you have to bring both of those in together as you're reading to fully comprehend the text. And again, in future upcoming episodes, I'm going to talk more about what that's about and how that happens, and perhaps how we can promote that for our students. And then finally, again, I want to highlight, he says, under fairly intense time constraints, reading quickly, that the ability to read quickly, not just accurately, but quickly, also promotes comprehension. And again, we'll talk about how that happens when we talk about working memory and how that plays into the act of reading and how that promotes actually comprehension, even though it seems like it might be backwards, that you should slow down to promote it. So I'll explain more about those in upcoming episodes. But for now, wanting to just lay some groundwork. Again, first looking at our goals, that the goal of reading for ancient languages, again, Hebrew, Greek, Latin, Aramaic, is exegesis, the critical explanation and interpretation of the text. Both of those require comprehension. And in the world of second language acquisition, a number of studies have shown that reading fluency is directly related to the ability to comprehend. And so we're going to pull all that together, take it apart, put it back together, talk about strategies for promoting reading fluency in upcoming episodes. So next episode, I'm going to start looking at working memory and what resources we have in working memory and how that contributes to the language learning process, specifically reading. Because if you understand what's going on in working memory, you can understand why some of these things are true about reading. So I hope that you'll be able to join me as I talk about working memory next time. And in the meantime, I want you to have a great day.
Keratepante zegoimi iese ke tutestin zon elenisti. Hello everyone, I'm Jesse Orloff and this is Living in Greek. Semron anagnosame ek tes protes epistoles tu Petru, ek tu tritu kephaleu. Niunde dignimi ten periochen. Kalos, anaginoskon nien. Omios gynekes hypotasomene tius idius andrasin, ina ke itines apitusin to logo diates ton gynekon anastrophes anevlogu kerdethesonte. Epoptevsantes ten enfovo agnen anastrophen iumon. On esto, uc o exothen emploques trichon que peritheseos crusion e endiuseos imation cosmos allokryptos tes kardias anthropos, ento αυτάρτο του praeos και εσιουχίου πνεύματος, ο εστιν ενώπιον του Θεού πολιουτελές. Ούτως καρποτε και Άγιε γυναίκες ελπίζουσε εις Θεόν κόσμουν αυτάς, υποτασσόμενε τους ιδίους ανδράσιν. Ο Σάρα υπέκουσεν το Αβραάμ, Κύριον αυτον καλούσα, γενέθετε τέκνα αγαθοποιούσε και με φοβούμενε με δεμίαν πτώεσιν. Οι άντρες ομοίως συνειουκούντες κατά γνώσιν, ως ασθενέστερο σκεύη το γυναικείο απονέμοντες τιμέν, ως και συγκληρονόμους χάριτος ζωές, εις το με εγκόπτεστε τας προσευχάς ημών. Το δε τέλος πάντες, ομόφρονες, συμπαθείς, φιλάδελφοι, εύσπλαγχνοι, ταπεινόφρονες, με αποδιδόντες κακόν αντί κακού, λυρορίαν αντί λυρορίας, τουν αντίοντε ευλογούντες, ότι εις τούτο εκλέθετε, ειν ευλογίαν κληρονομήσετε. Ο γαρθέλων ζωέν αγαπάν και ειδήν εμέρας αγαθάς, παυσάτο την γλώσσαν από κακού και χείλε του με λαλέσε δόλων. Εκκλινάτο δε από κακού και πιουεσάτο αγαθών, ζετεσάτο ειρήνην και διωξάτο αυτήν. Ότι οφθαλμίου Κυρίου επί δικαίους και ότα αυτού εις δέησιν αυτόν. Πρόσωπον δε Κυρίου επί ποιούντας κακά. Και τις ο κακόσον ημάς, εάν του αγαθού ζελωτέ γένεστε. Ζελωτέ γένεστε, αλλή και πάσχιουτε δια δικαιοσύνην μακάριου. Τον δε φόβον αυτόν με φοβεθέτε, με δε τραχθέτε, Κύριον δε τον Χριστόν αγιάσατε εν τες καρδίες ημών. Έτοιμοι αεί προς απολογίαν παντί το ετούντι ημάς λόγον περίτες εν ημίν ελπίδος, αλλά μεταπραγιούτετος και φόβου, συνείδεσιν έχοντες αγαθέν, ειναι εν ο καταλαλείστε κατεσκιουνθώσιν ιου επηρεάζοντες ημών τεν αγαθέν εν Χριστώ αναστροφέν. Κρήτον γαρ αγαθοποιούντας ή θέλιου το θέλεμα του Θεού πάσχιν κακοποιούντας. Ότι και Χριστός άπαξ περί αμαρτιών έπαθεν δίκαιος υπερ αδίκων. Δίκαιος υπερ αδίκων, ειναι ημάς προσαγάγε το Θεό. Θανατωθείς μεν σαρκί, ζωοποιηθείς δε πνεύματι, εν ο και τους εν φυλακέ πνεύμασιν πορευθείς εκέριουξεν. Απειθέσας συν ποτε, οτε απεξεδέχετο, του Θεού μακροθυμία εν εμέρες Νόε, κατασκευαζομένες κυβωτού εις εν ολίγιου τούτες οκτώ ψυχέ διεσώθεσαν διούδατος. Ο και ημάς αντίτυπον νυν ζώσει βάπτισμα, ου σαρκός απόθεσης ρήπου, αλλά συνειδέσεως αγαθές επερώτεμα εις Θεόν. δι' Αναστάσεως Ιησού Χριστού, ως εστιν εν δεξιά Θεού πορευθείς εις ουρανόν υποταγέντων αυτό αγγέλων και εξουσιών και δυνάμεων. Καλώς. Τούτο το κεφάλαιον καλόν εστιν εμεί. Εγώ βλέπω εν ταύτην την περιοχήν πολλά. Εγώ βλέπω παραγγελίας από του Πέτρου και προς τας γυναίκας και προς τους άντρας και προς πάντας. Και εγώ βλέπω σύντομον του Ευαγγελίου εν το στίχο 18 βλέπω σύντομον του Ευαγγελίου ότι και Χριστός άπαξ περί αμαρτιών έπαθεν δίκαιος υπέρ αδίκων, ή να ημάς προσαγαγέ το Θεό, θανατωθείς μεν σαρκί, ζωοποιηθείς δε πνεύματι. Εν ο και τους εν φυλακέ πνεύμασιν πορευθείς εκέριουξεν, απειθέσασιν ποτέ ότε απεξεδέχετο του Θεού μακροθυμία εν ημέρας Νόε κατασκευαζομένες κυβωτού εις εν ολίγιου τούτεστιν 8 ψυχέ διεσώθεσαν δι' ύδατος. Όκε ημάς αντίτυπον νυν σώζει βάπτισμα ου σαρκός απόθεσης ρήπου, αλλά συνειδέσεως αγαθές επερώτημα εις Θεόν, δι' Αναστάσεως Ιησού Χριστού, ως εστιν εν δεξιά Θεού πορευθείς εις ουρανόν υποταγέντων αυτό αγγέλων και εξουσιών και δυνάμεων. Ναι, βλέπω όδε την άφεσιν των αμαρτιών εμών, βλέπω την θανάτωσης, βλέπω την Ανάσταση πού βλέπω την Ανάσταση? Πού εστιν? Τάκα ουκ εστιν όδε. Αλλά εν τούτο, εν ταύτε τε περιοχέ, εις στίχου θαυμαστίου και δύσκολου, ως απειθέσασιν ποτέ ότε απεξεδέχετο ετου εν ο και τους εν φυλακέ πνεύμασιν πορευθείς εκέριουξεν. Ούτως ο στίχος έχει πολλές ερμηνείες as anthropiu dialalusin. Ναι. Και εν στίχο 21 και εν στίχο 21 ο Πέτρος λαλεί περί βάπτισμα και ενιώτα βάπτισμα διουσκολών εστιν υπήν υπήν διαλαλήν ότι οι άνθρωποι έχουσιν πολλάς ερμηνείας περί βαπτίσματι. Ναι. Καλώς. Τούτος είναι το τέλος της αναγνώσεως. Ευχαριστώ ημίν και θέλω υπήν ερώστε.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glosshouse can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glosshouse offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glosshouse.com today. Glosshouse, language resources for the global community.